Recently I noticed I've been kind of drifting off again. What I also tend to do is that when I want to make a change, I want to drastically change everything all at once. And at the same time, I just feel overwhelmed by all of these thoughts and things I have to do differently and I have to do perfectly. And it becomes something so big, and yeah, it becomes too big to even start, or I don't start at all, or I don't change anything at all because I want to do it like in this perfect way that I have set up for myself. But I also know that doing this is setting myself up for failure because I want to do everything perfectly, and the result is that I don't do anything at all. But reading books like Atomic Habit by James Clear, I learned that it's actually in the small habits that make you successful. I realized that before, but I didn't really implement it because I still focused on making this drastic change and wanting to change my life all of a sudden. But also I think because I wanted this immediate feeling of success. And changing the small habits doesn't really have this really big effect all of a sudden, but it does have a big effect in the long run. So the compounding effect of all these tiny changes and all these tiny habits can really have a big impact in your life over a longer period of time. So here are some tiny small habits that you can start implementing now. So the first habit is that it is a good idea to start adding protein to your breakfast. You don't have to change anything besides that, but just start adding some protein in the morning to your breakfast. And what it does is that protein keeps you full for a longer period of time, and it also keeps your blood sugar stable. And it means that you have less cravings during the day. Number 2 is making your bed in the morning. And this is already a challenge for me because I didn't do this for a really long time. And I still don't do this every morning, but I'm working on this. And what I realized though is that making my bed really does set me up for a more structured day. It makes me feel a little bit more put together if I made my bed than when I just get out of bed and start my day. And also finishing a task, even if it's a really tiny task, can release a little bit of dopamine. And dopamine is the neurotransmitter that makes you feel good. So just making your bed in the morning already gives you that little bit of, accomplished feeling that we all like. And number 3 is starting to add sunscreen to your routine. Start adding it on top of your moisturizer. And if you don't use any moisturizer, then it's still a good idea to start using SPF. It is a good idea to start using this because it protects your skin from harmful UV, and it also can prevent wrinkles. So that's not really a bad idea. And maybe some of you remember this picture of this older lady that used SPF every day, but she only applied it on her face and not her neck. And the difference is kind of huge. So yeah, wear your SPF. Number 4 is drinking a glass of water when you wake up. It's really simple, it's easy, it's fast. Drinking water is a good idea anyways, but also when you wake up you can be a little bit dehydrated. So this is a good idea to start your morning with a glass of water, but also drink water during the day. It's just good for a lot of stuff, and we all know that drinking water is good for us. So just don't think about it too much. Just drink your glass of water in the morning and drink water during the day. It will be good for you. And number 5 is start making your own coffees. And this is something that I started doing recently. And this is because the coffee at my job is just awful. I won't drink it. It's just the worst ever. But secondly, I think it's important to make your own coffee when you go out because it saves you a lot of money. Number 6 is that while making your own coffee is a great idea, it is also a great idea to not drink coffee after 2-3 p.m. and also not before 10 a.m. I most of the times don't really like these rules or set times where you can or can't do anything, but it is a good idea to think about the effects coffee has on your sleep. And some people are not really influenced by coffee as much as other people. I myself am really influenced if I drink coffee too late. I will be up all night. But I do think it's a good idea to realize what coffee or caffeine does for you and to kind of keep it in check that you don't drink coffee too late during your day so you don't compromise your sleep. Number 7 is reading a book before you go to sleep. And this doesn't have to be that you have to read at least one chapter or a certain amount of pages. Like I said, I don't really like these rules where you have to do a certain amount of thing or you can't do anything. But I think reading before you go to sleep is a good habit to pick up. And it's also a good idea to just say to yourself that you only have to read, for example, one page. And one page is something that we can all do, and it's not this really big thing all of a sudden that you have to read a chapter before you go to sleep, because I notice when I make it this big that I don't do it at all. So I kind of trick myself into saying that I only have to read one page, and what I do then is that most of the time I read more than one page. I want to get rid of all the screens before I go to sleep, but I'm really attached now to just watching my favorite show before I go to sleep. And it's too soon for me to get rid of that habit. So what I do now is that I watch my favorite show and then I'll end with reading my book. And then I gradually want to only read a book and get rid of my screens altogether. But yeah, baby steps. Number 8 is don't buy impulsively, but wait a week before you buy something. And this is something that I'm struggling with myself because I can be quite impulsive when I want something. So when I see something online that I like, then it just stays stuck in my head and I really want it. And I also noticed that a lot of the times when I bought it, then the fun is kind of, I want something new. So for me, it is a good challenge to think about it for at least a week if I really want something. And then I can buy it. It can save you a lot of money. Number 9 is limit your news intake. Turn off your news notifications, because if you are seeing the news the whole day, you are triggered by all these news notifications the whole day. It takes up a lot of your time, but also a lot of your mental energy and a lot of your headspace. And this is also a challenge for me because now I can check it 10 times a day. And I just check it on my phone and I check it when I'm bored. But I do notice that some things that I've read get stuck in my head, and it just takes up a lot of my mental space, my mental health also. So only check the news one time a day. And what you can do now is to turn off the news notifications, so you don't get any notifications on your screen that trigger you. And I think that's a good place to start. And number 10 is walking as much as you can instead of taking your car or taking public transportation. And this can really do wonders for your health. I really enjoy walking when it's raining outside. I don't really enjoy it, but I try to walk as much as I can. If it's around 15 to 20 minutes to walk somewhere, I usually walk there. And I also try when I meet with friends, for example, to also walk to a lot of places, and then we can just talk in the meantime, and then without realizing you walked a lot of steps during the day. I think that's a good thing to just start to add walking to places instead of taking the car, taking public transportation for every little distance. So I think that's a good idea. And number 11 is taking the stairs instead of taking the elevator or taking the escalator. And number 12 is to unsubscribe from unnecessary newsletters or from newsletters in general. And I was subscribed to a lot of newsletters, and also a lot of newsletters from clothing companies, for example, or companies that want to sell me something. And every time when I got a new email with a new newsletter, I did check it. Even if it was very briefly, I did see something that was triggering, or was something that I would like, or was taking up mental space again. And that's not what I want. I don't want to be influenced the whole day by companies that want to sell me something. It's hard enough to not buy stuff the whole day. So unsubscribing from newsletters was a good idea for me. Number 13 is getting more sleep. And getting more sleep doesn't really sound like a tiny habit, but I think we can make it tiny in, for example, saying to ourselves that we're gonna go to bed 15 minutes earlier than we do regularly. And I think 15 minutes is doable. And if you add 15 minutes to your whole week, in the end of the week, that's kind of a big amount of time that you slept more. And maybe you can gradually increase it to a half an hour or maybe an hour. And if that isn't doable for you, then maybe adding half an hour is enough. And getting an extra half an hour sleep a day is already a big improvement. And number 14 kind of has to do something with the previous point I make, is when you go to bed 15 minutes earlier, then you can also try to get up in the morning 15 minutes earlier than you usually do. And for me, this really helped to start the day in a more relaxed way. And I sometimes fall into the trap of snoozing and then thinking, oh, I have an extra 20 minutes of sleep, but it's not like really quality sleep anyways. And it also results in me feeling rushed and not taking the time to have a proper breakfast or to just start my day rushed and stressed already. While an extra 15 minutes can give you a lot of peace and time to do all of your things just a little bit more relaxed. So try to get up 15 minutes earlier, and if this is tough for you, then maybe start with 5 minutes earlier and then 10 and then 15 and see what it does for you. And number 15 and the last one is start adding your to-do things in your calendar. And this sounds really simple, and that is because it is really simple, but adding your to-do things in your calendar makes you not worry about forgetting stuff. At least it works for me. And I don't really like making all of these lists because I'm also worried that I forget those lists and then I make all of these to-do lists, but I don't really think about when I'm going to do things. So when I plan my to-do things in my calendar, that really helps me to just relax. Then I know, like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna call the dentist, and then the day after I'm gonna return that package, for example. But it does give me space or mental space again, because I know, okay, I planned these things and I'm gonna do it, but not all of these today, but I know I will do them, and I know I also won't forget them. So a small habit, but I think really effective. So these were 15 small habits that you can start now to implement in your daily routine. So remember, you don't have to do them all at once, but pick the habits that you think are useful for your life. Maybe just picking one, and then week by week you can start implementing new routines, and after a while you don't even have to think about them, but you just do them. And that's the benefit of habits, that after a while it's just something that you do and that you implement it in your life. Like, for example, brushing your teeth in the evening and in the morning. It's not something that you actively think about that you have to do that. It's just something that you do. It's part of your daily routine. And that's also the fact with the habits that I mentioned before. After a while they become just part of your life, but they do have a really big and positive effect. So this was it for today, and I hope you found this video a little bit helpful, and I hope I'll see you next time again. Bye.